Hi and welcome to the lesson. Now that you've practiced straight stitches, we will embark on your first mini project, a bookmark, which is really simple and easy to sew. That said, it's not so straightforward either. There is some turning out and something new and essential about sewing that you will learn as well. It's a great scrap buster, easy to make in bulk, and makes a great gift for the book lover in your life. That may be you. So let's get started. So I mentioned you would learn something new about sewing that was essential to almost everything you will sew in the future. That something is interfacing. Have you ever wondered how your shirt collars stay perky wash after wash? Or how cuffs can handle buttoning up wear after wear? That is interfacing. Like the name suggests, it's a piece of woven or non-woven fabric that sits between two layers of fabric where additional stiffness or reinforcing is required. Woven interfacing is essentially like most fabrics, made with interlocking threads going opposite ways that can be seen close up. Non-woven is a fabric similar to felt, made of fine pressed fibres. Interfacings come in various weights which govern its stiffness and is dependent on the thickness. It makes sense that the thicker the interfacing, the stiffer it will make the fabric that it is sandwiched between. Interfacing comes in either fusible or non-fusible. Fusible interfacing has a fine glue-like substance on one side and adheres to your fabric when pressed with a hot iron. You can see the glue as it gives the interfacing a slightly spotty shine. Non-fusible interfacing is sewn into place around the edges and sometimes, depending on the pattern, sewn all over with an understitch. So now you know the secret of making your creations long-lasting. We're going to use it for this project. Okay, for this project you're going to need the following supplies. A small piece of interfacing, two coordinating fabrics, one for the cover and one for the inside, a roller cutter, a 4-inch square template or a piece of paper to make a 4-inch square template, a cutting mat, and I'll show you what this masking tape is for in a minute. So first of all, we need to iron our fabrics to make sure they're nice and flat. So I'm using a fat quarter for this project. So I'm just going to iron that so that it's nice and flat so it doesn't have these ridges on it. This is 100% cotton, it's a quilting cotton. It's the best thing to use for a beginner project. So I said I'd show you what we were going to use the masking tape for in a minute. When you cut with these plastic or acrylic laser cut squares, or even a ruler, they can slip on the fabric. I'll show you what I mean. It's very slippery on the fabric. So in order to stop that from happening, what you can do is get some masking tape and really literally just tape the outsides of your square so that it sits flat. Because this is nice and textured, it will sit flat on your fabric and not move around. So we just do the edges like this and then trim off the excess so that you've got a nice non-slippery edge while you're cutting your fabric out. So we've got 4 nice pieces there. I'm just going to trim off the excess. So now we have a nice neat edging around the ruler so that it won't slip on your fabric. Perfect. Let's get started. So to cut your fabric, you need your cutting mat and your fabric over the top. And we're just going to place this square nice on the edge. This piece is actually quite square. It's really important that these pieces are square because we're doing such precise work. And you just cut with your ruler So we've got a nice, whoops, there's a little bit just stuck, that sometimes happens. So we've got a nice neat finish on that square. And then we do another one. There we go. Now we have two pieces, one for the back, one for the front. Now we're just going to put this aside. And now we'll take the inside contrasting fabric, and I'll show you how this works later when we put them together, but this one just needs a bit of a trim. So now we have one contrasting piece and one back and front. Perfect. Let's get started on the interfacing. So for this project, I'm using a non-woven interfacing, and as you can see, this is an offcut from another project that I've done. And you can see that on one side, it's sort of got a slightly lumpy sort of finish, which is the glue, which will melt and stick to your fabric when you iron it. And on the other side, it's nice and smooth. So we're going to just cut out one square, not two, we only need one, to keep it nice and stiff when we make our bookmark. So we're just going to cut out one piece. So we've got our square of interfacing. We're just going to put aside the cutting mat and the template, so we don't need those anymore. And we're going to get one of our back and front pieces, put it face side down, and then the stickiness here needs to go onto the fabric like that. So the lumpy sort of sticky side is down facing the fabric. It's very important so that the interfacing doesn't scorch, that you put your iron onto maybe a lesser setting. So I've got it on wool and silk, which is slightly less. And then also you need to turn it to no steam. It's very important when you're adhering your interfacing that you don't have any steam. So let's just gently press this on in little increments like that. And then we can get heavier as we know that it's stuck on. And it'll curl up at the edges a little bit because it's sticking down, but just give it a good press. Turn it on the other side. Give it a good press on that side as well. And there you have your piece all ready to go with the interfacing on one side. So it's nice and stiff. Okay, now we take the contrasting piece and we just give it a light press in a triangle shape. So you just press it into a triangle and press it down, which will make it easier to keep the shape when we sew over the top. We're going to sew a line across here to keep it nice and steady. So that's just prepped our piece ready for sewing. And the other two don't need any prep. And now we're ready to sew. And now here we are at the sewing machine with our grey thread. It's the best colour thread to use on a project where you're using multiple colours for the fabric. We've got our bobbin here, we're about to thread up, and then we're ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do is to take our inside piece. This is the piece that sits over the top of the page when you're using your bookmark. And the first thing we're going to do is to stitch that 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the fold that we made with the iron earlier. So we do a quick back stitch, then we go. Stitching along that way, we get to the end, do a quick back stitch, and then we're done. Perfect. Snip that off. And we now have a piece ready for stitching together. So now we take our 3 pieces, we place this one, which has got the interfacing on it, at the back. Then we place our piece along the front, being careful to line up the edges. And then face down again, we place the top piece over the top. And I get some clips or some pins. You might like to use either. And get some clips. And we're just going to clip that in place around the 4 edges. And then we're ready to sew. Now we're going to leave a gap when we sew so that we can turn it out around about a couple of inches long, just marking that with a dressmaker's pencil. So we're going to sew around this edge and around and back to that point. Let's go. So here we go. We're going to start on this blue line here, leaving about 1/4 of an inch. Do a back tack up to the blue line, then stitch nice and slow. When you get to the corners, you put your needle down, lift up the foot, put the foot back down again after pivoting your work, and continue going. Remember to take your clips off because they will snap and flip all over the place if you don't take them off. And we just stitch down here until we reach 1/4 of an inch from the edge, lift up the foot, pivot, and put the foot back down, and take the pin off and continue along there. And then we stop again just before the edge, about 1/4 of an inch, pivot, put the foot up and down, and do the final full length. And stop it right there, maybe one back actually. No, one forward. There we go. And then take the clip off, pull your threads out of the way, and then sew to the blue line where we marked before, to the opening. So right to there, back stitch, and then we have it. We put our needle up, and that's perfect. And we cut the threads on the back, and we're ready to go. So just before we take this to the ironing board, we just need to clip off the corners like so, to make sure that when we turn out the edges there's not a bulky bit of fabric on the other side, stopping it from looking like a neat edge. Okay, so I'm just at the ironing board and I'm going to turn the piece out through the hole. Just very gently, because you don't want to break your stitching, through the hole like so, and then put your finger through there and turn it out on the edges, and then we're going to get the chopstick and do a better job of that. So we get the chopstick through the hole, very gently pushing the corner so it's nice and turned out, and you do that to every corner very gently so you don't push your stitches all the way through and break your seam. Very gently turn this one over very gently, and then we have your product nearly finished, ready for ironing. Now we just take the piece, fix the open edge with your fingernail, press it down with your hands, get it nice and ready. Then we take the iron and just iron over the top gently at first. You might even want to put on some steam. And then the other side, just pressing it lightly, ready for top stitching. And there you have it. we're ready for top stitching. So now we take our ironed piece and starting anywhere you like, we're going to stitch very close to the edge. So just make sure that's close to the edge. And put your glasses on, like me, if you need them. And then you go back stitch, and then stitch around like you did before, just with a tiny, maybe 2mm edge to your top stitching. Going through all the layers and slowing down towards the edge so we can turn around. Pulling your threads out of the way. Putting your foot down and sew that way. Do a couple of back stitches and we're done. And we trim the stitches close to the fabric, and there you have it. Well, you did it! You made your first sewing project and learned some basic skills along the way. I hope you enjoyed this lesson, feel invigorated and have a sense of accomplishment. In the next module, we will learn to make 3 projects using squares as a base, and I will teach you how to sew buttonholes, zippers and much more. So see you soon for the next steps on your sewing journey. Thanks again for joining me.